Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is Monday, the 16th of May, 2022. These are the stories that we will be discussing during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with Pakistan's water situation. We know that the water situation as far as the dams or the rivers is concerned is extremely low. We also know the vows that the different sectors of society, whether it be the public or whether it be the different business sectors, are seeing the effects of climate change and the lack of water. We are seeing drought-like conditions, as has been said by one of the United Nations Convention to Combat Diversification report, and we have been named in one of the 23 countries that are fearing drought emergencies over the past 2 years. This is the report is called Global Land Outlook. Now, this is nothing new for Pakistan, because Pakistan has been told apparently in the last few years about the situation that it is going to get itself into. Also, the Asian Development Bank in the beginning of this month has said that Pakistan needs an integrated approach to tackle water shortage. Our Prime Minister has constituted a task force to deal with the issue of climate change in a meeting that was held today, in which important members of the cabinet took part. This and more is going to be discussed in our first segment. What is the way forward for Pakistan's water vows? Our second story of the day, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the relationship between Pakistan and the United States of America. It has seen a lot of lows in the last few months because of political tensions. It has also seen a new resurgence as far as the ties between Pakistan and the US are concerned with the new government. We know that our Foreign Minister, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, is going to leave for the United States on a very important visit as well. How important is this need to build on the relationship between Pakistan and the United States of America? Also, a senior US lawmaker has urged the Biden administration to rebuild the incredibly important quote-unquote relationship with Pakistan. We also know that in the past the US has said that it wants to work with Pakistan, that it considers an important partner, but it does not cite many sectors. It does cite two important sectors, that is counterterrorism and another. The fact remains that a lot of work needs to be done as far as re-strengthening the relationship between Pakistan and the US is concerned, and this is going to be our second story. Our third story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the relationship between Pakistan and the United Arab Emirates. We know that our Premier Shehbaz Sharif Saab has also gone personally to condole for the demise of Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al-Nahyan, the former president of the UAE. The ties between Pakistan and UAE continue to be strong and will continue to strengthen under the current leadership. This is the third story. And then finally, we're going to talk about the heat wave that has engulfed Pakistan and different cities of Pakistan as well. As far as Islamabad is concerned, the Office of the District Health Officer has issued a whole list of do's and don'ts as far as the heat stroke is concerned. What to do if you get a heat stroke, what are the symptoms, and what are the precautionary measures. Also, with this rise of temperatures, we are seeing a variety of infectious diseases that are also gaining momentum in different parts of the country, especially in Rawalpindi and Islamabad, whether it be chickenpox, gastroenteritis or measles. We are seeing an increase in the number of cases, especially amongst the children in Pindi and Islamabad. This is going to be our last story, what to do when heat strikes our twin cities and Pakistan. Let's come with our first segment, and that of course consists of water and Pakistan and the drought-like situation that Pakistan is engulfed in. Pakistan has been named amongst 23 countries that are drought-stricken and facing drought emergencies over the past 2 years, 2020 to 2022. What needs to be done to take Pakistan out of the current state of crisis? More in the following report.
The impending water scarcity in Pakistan against the backdrop of blistering heatwave and novel climate-induced challenges illustrate a ticking time bomb. Underlining precarious situation, a report released by United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, UN listed among 23 countries by UN that are facing drought emergencies in the last 2 years. In its alarming revelations, the report further mentioned that up to 40% of planet's land is degraded, directly affecting affecting half of the humanity and threatening roughly half of global GDP worth $44 trillion. Highlighting land degradation and desertification, United Nations Global Land Outlook stated that desertification control through sustainable land management productive land is scarce in Pakistan, with 80% of the country being arid or semi-arid. Putting profound pressure on national water supplies, Pakistan received 26% less snowfall last winter compared to previous years, followed by a completely dry spell in March and April. Federal Minister of Climate Change Senator Sherry Rahman suggested that it's high time to conserve, store, and distribute water better since Pakistan battles a looming serious water crisis. Earlier, Asian Development Bank has suggested to Pakistan that holistic governance across sectors is required to address growing competition for water and to manage the effects of pollution, wastewater, floods, droughts, and land degradation at present and in the future.
Dr. M. Abdullah Khan, environmentalist, joins us online. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saab, the water vows, as a lot of people call them, is nothing new for Pakistan. But what I'd like to understand from somebody like yourself is, despite knowing the fact that Pakistan was undergoing a crisis, slowly going towards one consisting of a reduction of water and all the issues related to it, why did the administration did not take care of it or take the adequate measures to curtail it?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the chair and giving me the opportunity to talk about this, this current water issue. As you mentioned, this is not something not new, and expert and the people who are working in the even because I think we need to understand the two aspects of it. First, this is not surprising. We know that this Pakistan is one of the vulnerable to climate change. So and this climate change. So when this will hit us hard, and this pattern of availability of water is going to be there would be there would be change in availability of water during 1 year and 1 month and other months. So this was expected of this expected considering the Pakistan, where Pakistan lies. But the one important aspect, the other important aspect is are we ready as a nation, or our management, are the maybe policymakers, or the people at the helm of affairs were ready to they foresee this coming, but they were ready for that. So this thing is perhaps.
All right. There is one aspect of it that the management did not properly foresee the issue and the steps that needed to be taken in order to curtail this shortness or this reduction in water in the rivers, in the dams, and of course because of less rainfall also, the future of the water situation in Pakistan. Now, as far as this report is concerned, Dr. Saab, the Global Land Outlook report that was released by the United Nations, it talks about future scenarios as far as countries such as Pakistan are concerned. There are 23 countries involved, including Pakistan. It talks about the year 2050, where it says an additional 4 million square kilometers of natural areas, equivalent to the size of India and Pakistan, will require restoration measures, augmented with protection measures of areas important for biodiversity. Then it calls for water regulation. Then calls for conservation of soil and carbon stocks. And fourth, it calls for a provision of critical ecosystem functions. Can all of these 4 points be tackled in parallel, or do you feel that there are some certain points that are more important than the others?
I mean, for a country like Pakistan, actually, this task is enormous. Actually, there are definitely some priority areas are of more importance than the others. For example, water, as we know, Pakistan being a agrarian country, will be very crucial for sustenance of our sustenance of life. Even I'll say in Pakistan, actually. So I mean, The other areas, you said carbon footprint, perhaps we less contributing to that. So I mean, maybe we will be spending even less on that. I mean, our previous governments, particularly when they say that they're going to plant a lot of trees, to maybe just to make the impact, to adopt this, situation that is, with this climate change. Then there's so many aspects, as you said. I'm just because I'm mentioning this, this billion trees. That's very, well celebrated, talked about, program of the previous governments. There's a one, fine aspect that probably we missed. In that as well, we planted the trees that were not, suitable for the certain areas and that were for the other areas. So they're probably going to again the biodiversity and ecosystem imbalances. They also, I mean, setting aside, I'm just talking about, for example, obviously there will be benefit, for example, when we're planting a lot of trees, but there are some aspects when they probably they will also be disturbing this, fine balances that needed when we very carefully thought about a program will be implemented. Water actually, Pakistan, the Pakistan's mostly water agriculture and other fresh water is based on the, this is mostly come from the glacial melt actually. And this water patterns that you said, the rainfall and other things that probably are going to be disturbed or changed, that are because of the climate, obviously, and this was this was impending, this was coming. We were not ready for that. The expert of the
all right, Dr. Saab, one thing is that we were not ready for it. Now it has arrived. We have a drought-like situation. We are also seeing the effects of climate change. We see the increase in temperatures across the country. We see the lack of water as far as the rivers and the dams are concerned. Now, we also know which are the communities that are going to be most affected by this drought-like situation: poor rural communities, smallholder farmers, women, youth, indigenous people, and the other at-risk groups. How can the public and the private sector work together in order to curtail the current situation as far as these communities are concerned? Let's begin with the farmers. We know that we are a farming country. Most of our economy is based on agriculture. How can Pakistan move forward in order to help the agricultural community, the farmers of Pakistan, under the current circumstances?
I mean, this is very, very, very difficult question actually. When you're asking that, how could we cope actually? So I mean, it obviously needed, the best would be, for example, the answer is for example, to go for the practices that are more sustainable, and we are not, for example, as you said, the poor would be hit mostly, harder than the other segment of the society. Farmers, who cannot probably afford to pump out the water, from the aquifers, the water that is under, or if they are based on they irrigating their crops from the canal system, then that is depend on the availability of the water actually. When there's no water, probably then that would be harder for those the most vulnerable of us.
But Dr. What can we do? What can we do? What are the measures that should be taken?
Just want to add one thing actually here. The world has moved towards smart, very climate smart crops actually. So they have reduced the life cycles of the certain crops. For example, we also need to see that how much water we using for certain crops. Maybe we using 4 or 5 crops, and our 80% of the water is going for that. So how much they contribute to our economy, we need to think that about as well. They only contribute maybe to the 10 to 5% of the agriculture, GDP, and they're consuming 80% of the water. So we have to be smart, and I think this needs to be, not only just the use and availability of water, then also the educating and also the sustainable practices as well. So as you said, we were not ready. I mean, this was projected. This is going to be erratic. We don't know when probably the drought will hit us actually. These heat waves will be more common, and then this outburst of the lakes, glacial melts, and those kind of occurrences would be more frequent. And the only, I think, window, as you mentioned, the International Panel for Climate Change report, which was released a few months back, and that was overshadowed by the event that happened in Ukraine. That they mentioned actually this 80, not only Pakistan, 50 to 80% of the world. They mentioned 50 to 80% of the world population would be in conditions of life threatening conditions. So I mean, I think there's a no, probably, I think it's if not no, maybe I think it's very difficult to say that what would the quick fix for that.
Whether the situation becomes difficult or not, the fact remains that we need to cope with it, and we need to take necessary measures in order to improve the livelihood of the communities that are most affected by this drought-like situation. Now, the report also mentions that the following is going to happen if this current land degradation situation continues, and it talks about 5 important issues that are food supply disruptions, forced migration, rapid biodiversity loss, species extinctions, and accompanied by a high risk of zoonotic diseases such as COVID-19, something that we are seeing now. Again, there's another outbreak, declining human health and land resource conflicts. When we look at these very important eventualities of the current situation that has engulfed Pakistan as a result of climate change and Pakistan's previous management not taking the adequate measures, how can Pakistan move forward? In your point of view, understanding environment and being an environmentalist yourself, what are the steps that need to be taken on an urgent basis?
I think, I mean, we definitely, for example, to minimize the impact, that is, the things that are upon us. There are the measures from there can be very personal steps to individuals, then to the smaller societies, and then the bigger regions, and and the provincial governments to the national governments, and then the international. I think there are the steps, certainly. For example, I mean, this is the example. In the morning when I was just walking through the streets, I saw one of the tap running. Just this. Although the fresh water that we use in the domestic, that contributes very small to the fraction of water that is that we use. Rest is
all right, this is something that I'd like to understand, and I'd like your response. I mean, I'd like your point of view on it. The World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, the United States Agency for International Development, Domestic Water Watchers had all forewarned Pakistan that this is going to happen, the way things are going, the way climate change is affecting Pakistan, the way there's an increase in temperature and less water supply due to rainfall. There's going to be such a situation in the coming days. Why, and I repeat my question, why were the necessary measures not taken?
I mean, there I think certain. I think that there's we have the capacity issue as well. We have the we not communicate. We also we need to set the priorities, which is more what is more important. You see the current most political parties. You just I'm just telling you. I don't want to discuss this. You bring this because into the discussions. All top political parties, despite what is happening in Balochistan and in Sindh, where there's a humanitarian crisis are there. How much spendings and how much we talk about this issue on national
No, but it's not just about talking, Dr. Saab, it's more about taking actions.
I'm just telling you, first we fix them, it is about the priority. The thing that we not even talking in this current scenarios. How would you prioritize then? This is I'm highlighting. I think I'm really happy that you're bringing this up. This is the only probably the one of the channel that will be discussing the water, and the current situation is a problem. If you turn on any other media channel, social media or anything, I think
it's very important, Dr. Saab. At the end of the day, it's very important not only to highlight this issue but also take this issue to the necessary quarters and translate all these words into actions. It's time for action. The time for for words and reports, has long gone. It's time for, putting things in the field and taking the necessary actions. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us and to have talked to us. That was Dr. M. Abdullah Khan, environmentalist, talking to us about the water vows of the country. We know that our Premier Shehbaz Sharif Saab has called in a very important meeting and has created a task force to deal with the issue of climate change. This was of course a high-level meeting that was chaired by the Premier, and there were many important members of the cabinet as well as the chairman of the NDMA who was present there, in which very important decisions were taken as to how to take the country forward under the current situation and the crisis that Pakistan is engulfed in when it comes to water. We know the drought-like conditions that Pakistan is facing. We also know the lack of water in the rivers, in the different dams. We also know about the glaciers melting. I mean, Pakistan is seeing the real effects of climate change, and I really hope and I wish and I pray that the current administration with the private sector takes the necessary steps before it's way too late. 2025 is the target as that has been given by the United Nations report, and after that it will be too late for a country like Pakistan. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns the relationship between Pakistan and the United States of America. We've seen a lot of lows in the last few months, political issues between the two countries, but the current administration, the current government is trying to mend that relationship, those issues. We have our Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari Saab, who's leaving for the United States on an official visit. There will be efforts to mend the relationship between the two sides. As far as the US side is concerned, we've recently seen a lot of positive statements, whether it be from Ned Price, whether it be from the congressman, from the lawmaker Chris, who very recently on Sunday talked about how important it was for developing the relationship between Pakistan and the United States of America. Will the US move towards a positive trajectory as far as Pakistan is concerned? Will it understand the importance of Pakistan and that Pakistan is an important player in the region? And will it see different tangents of relationship that need to be explored between the two countries? Only time will tell. More in the following report.
Pakistan's shift from geopolitics to geoeconomics is an unshakable consensus shared by all groups across political spectrum, and this entails cordial relations with all significant countries. Reaffirming Pakistan's long-standing policy of constructive bilateral ties with all countries, incumbent government has augmented engagement with Biden administration. As Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto is expected to travel to US this month. Underlining the importance of long-term relationship with Pakistan, US Senator Chris Murphy has stressed the need to further expand Pakistan-US bilateral ties. Senator Chris Murphy, also the chairman of Subcommittee on Near East, South Asia, Central Asia, acknowledged that every bilateral relationship is marred by ups and downs, but Pakistan-US relations has endured the test of time. Reiterating the desire to strengthen Pakistan-US broad-based bilateral relationship, Secretary of the State Antony Blinken earlier spoke with Pakistani Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto and highlighted the ongoing engagement on trade and investment, climate, energy, health and education. Signaling a critical juncture in bilateral relations, Pakistan's ambassador to US, Masood Khan, hailed the affirmative statement by Senator Murphy while terming the US as a true friend of Pakistan. This year marks 75th anniversary of US-Pak relations, and both countries have collaborated for 75 years on issues that are important to both nations. Pakistan views the relationship with Washington with respect and is ready to enhance cooperation based on equality and mutual respect.
Now, to discuss more that, we've been joined by former Ambassador Nasir Ali Khan Saab. Nasir Ali Khan Saab, thank you very much to have joined us, to have come all the way to the show. How can one rebuild the relationship with the United States of America, which is an extremely important partner as far as global affairs are concerned, global politics are concerned?
Well, first of all, let me state that despite all that you hear today in the country, our relationship with the United States is extremely important. Not only is it a superpower, but it is a major trading partner. And then it has tremendous influence on European Union, on Canada, on Australia and other trading partners. Apart from that, it exerts a lot of influence on the IMF and the World Bank.
True.
And right now, as you must have seen, the economy is in dire straits. and we do need to get some relief through the IMF.
True.
As you can see, they are putting certain very strict conditions, and they are putting conditions that may be politically unpopular. So that is a given. Now, as far as the present time is concerned, I was very encouraged by the fact that Senator Chris Murphy made this statement. I think what we need to do as far as our ambassador in the US is concerned is to reach out to Congress and reach out to government over there and try to allay the misunderstandings and the fears. We have about 50 to 60 members in Congress who are part of the Pakistan caucus. So just like a sympathetic senator has made this important statement, I think we need to go out and lobby these people to remove the misunderstandings, to assert the importance that Pakistan places on this relationship.
Ambassador Saab, is it a daunting task?
It is indeed. Under the present circumstances, what has happened recently, I think it is a difficult task. But at the same time, I'm absolutely sure that although the United States is now considering India as an important strategic partner in the region, I do not believe that they would like it to be at the expense of their relationship with Pakistan. Pakistan will continue to be an important country in this region, and this region is still very unstable, especially from the point of view of Afghanistan. It is so important. You know, they have made this mistake in 1989 by abandoning the region. If you remember, Hillary Clinton accepted this and said we will not make this mistake again. But now it seems to me that ever since they left Afghanistan recently, there is a sort of feeling of embarrassment on their part. There's also this tendency to find reasons and a scapegoat for this. So the main problems that they have with Pakistan right now is to, you know, somehow be able to punish Pakistan for its conduct in the last 20 years. And what they say is that we have given tens of millions of dollars in assistance, and Pakistan has basically been playing a double game and providing protection to certain networks that were active in Afghanistan.
So confidence building measures are the most important.
Absolutely, but you know, we need to plead our case in America as to what happened in the last 20 years. What is the truth? How many sacrifices have we made in terms of
The
life?
war against terror, if nothing else, these wars against terror that we've waged, I mean, where tens of thousands of lives have been lost.
Yes, and if you look at the Haqqani network, at any time, by any estimates, it had between 4,000 to 12,000 men under its command. Now, is it fair to say that on the other side, you have the most powerful nations with 120,000 troops, and the only reason for their failure is because we had the Haqqani network here. Also, if you say that people were crossing over, and you know, Pakistan, even before the Americans withdrew, had started making this fence along the border. So our intentions were not to allow cross-border terrorism. And if we are responsible, I think to some extent, on the other side, whoever stands on the other side of the border should also be responsible to protect that border.
That is true. Now, on the 6th of May, Ambassador Saab, Ned Price said, while answering certain questions from the media in a press brief, he said that the US was ready to work with Pakistan on counter-terrorism and border security. Why relegate the relationship with Pakistan to just that? And I then quote what Chris Murphy said. He said that this relationship that is between the US and Pakistan will bounce back with economic content at the center. How important is for the US to understand that the relationship with Pakistan is is more important and much more extensive than just border security and counter-terrorism?
You're absolutely right. But you see, relations between countries are always based on their own particular interests. Now, right now, it seems that this is their interest. Where our interests converge, there will be progress. But once they come here and they have a stake and they can see that they are benefiting from the relationship, then other things can also come about. Now, as far as the economic side is concerned, it's very, very important. You know, another sort of abrasive issue that we have is that of Cpec. Some of the American politicians have clearly stated that it is not in their interest to have Cpec. Now, you see, the Belt and Road Initiative is a global initiative, and it is something that they will not be able to stop. Pakistan has been saying for a long time that Pakistan should also not be interested in putting all their eggs in one basket. Pakistan wants to do business with the rest of the world, and Pakistan
That's
would like
the business
to
of diplomacy, to have a normal, neutral and strong relationship with all the countries involved.
Absolutely. But you see, the way you will conduct this diplomacy is to create stakes on both sides. For example, we should go to the United States and showcase the opportunities that exist in Pakistan, whether it is in the Cpec or it is in energy or it is in agriculture, because you know there are many, many possibilities and there's
Entrepreneurship.
Exactly. So if we get the opportunity to go to America, to the United States and showcase, we have these seminars, these meetings, we meet with the chambers, and we show them the opportunities that exist here. Because you see, we seem to always go to people for assistance, for aid. Now, these are opportunities, there are tremendous opportunities. We have 30 to 40 million people who are just a world-class market. We are 220 million people, but 30 million of us have tremendous buying power.
True.
And they are fond of travel, they are fond of buying goods and services from abroad. They should get that opportunity, number one, to exploit that market. The other advantage that we offer is that if you put up an industry or a project here, you can sell to areas like Afghanistan, you can sell to the proximal markets of the Middle East. These are very, very important things. So, you know, wherever we can find common interests, and as much as we can involve people-to-people contacts, that creates stakes. You know, when you have companies, large companies, what is it that happened in China? Huge companies went and invested in China and created stakes there, and that's what protected the Chinese and the Americans. So it was a mutual thing. There are opportunities here where American companies can come in, and if the United States government wants to assist this process in any way, then instead of giving us money for budgetary support, US aid assistance, whatever they want to call it, they ought to be able to have a fund which will ensure the equity or the investment of the American investor in Pakistan.
True, and also
that is a win-win
help the small and medium-sized industry in Pakistan that is slowly and steadily thriving. In the last decade, this is an industry that has really come up. We have a lot of youth that are investing in it, that are working in standing on their own feet and creating their own small companies. And I think the US could give not only the necessary expertise to all of these, but also the necessary funding. I know a lot of funding has gone through seeds and seed funding that a lot of Pakistani companies have acquired that comprise of youth. Nevertheless, at the base of it is politics and political relationship between the two countries. What, in your point of view, sir, being a diplomat, should Pakistan take as the primordial steps in order to A, have the confidence of the US, B, make it understand that what Pakistan wants is to only strengthen the relationship with the US, but not at the cost of any other relationship with any other country?
Yeah. First of all, you see, we need to clarify certain misunderstandings that we have. So this vitiated atmosphere, you know, improves in some way. But the other thing, as I said, there has to be common interests. So one very important area that they ought to look at is Afghanistan. I'm sorry to say that this attitude of, for example, keeping $7 billion of assets of Afghanistan.
Well, now they've agreed to give $3.5 billion.
There you go. But guess what they plan to do with the other half?
Yes, I know.
That is to compensate the victims of
9/11.
Do you think that's fair? I mean, even if the people who conducted the operation in 9/11 were in Afghanistan, you cannot punish all of the people of Afghanistan, and especially in a situation like this, we must realize that if the Afghan state fails right now, if there is chaos over there, there are other
trickle-down effect on Pakistan.
Not only that, there will be space for other non-state actors from all over the world,
to strengthen
all kinds of unsavory elements who will be able to come in there, because there will be a shortage of funds. People will be starving. They'll come in with some money. They'll help people over there, but they'll have their own agenda, which is going to be harmful not just for our whole region here, but also globally. As you can see, how did it happen? How did 9/11 happen? Something happened 7,000 kilometers away. So it is in their interest also not to abandon the Afghan people right now. They must make sure, yes, they are concerned with counterterrorism. We are very concerned with it. As you can see,
we are the
happening.
victims of counterterrorism.
Yes, but you know, we have to be very, very fair. We have certain interests. We have a certain relationship with Afghanistan, which goes back far beyond 9/11. And there have been certain problems that we've had there. For example, in FATA, there used to be the Afghan Secret Service used to come and try to recruit people or change their points of view or whatever. Now, these are issues that we have. It's not just strategic depth. Many times the government in Afghanistan is more pro-India or pro-Russia and less so with Pakistan. So we also have to have certain players that may be closer
that can counter that.
That can counter that. Now, these are realities. I'll give you an example of Syria. You know that the side that the United States supports are basically elements that were Al-Qaeda against the regime of Syria, right? Now, they keep changing their names. Whether it is Jabal Nusra or something else, they keep changing their names, but they are the same people. 8 years ago, Senator John McCain went and met those people and told the government, President Obama, that we ought to arm these people. So, you know, these are compulsions. There are strange situations that are sometimes created. And similarly, it's the case with Pakistan. We need to look after ourselves. So this is very, very important. We need to explain not just to the United States, but the rest of the international community. You know the statement, you must have seen a video of the National Security Advisor of India, who was openly saying that we will make sure that we fund people in Balochistan to create...
Not the first time and not the last time, certainly,
Indeed.
that such statements will emanate.
So you see, the US should also not talk about things like, you know, declaring Pakistan possibly a country that sponsors state terrorism. You know, the US themselves are doing it, the Indians are doing it, and you know, you can call it whatever, but finally, you have to be fair.
But
you
you
know,
also
so
have to, I
they
think,
say to
yes.
us, they don't say to India. They cannot say to them.
Maybe India has a stronger maneuvering policy as far as the way to talk or to way to cajole the people or the people that matter in the United States. Maybe Pakistan needs to be more robust, more proactive as far as that is concerned, to counter the mechanisms that are initiated by India.
That is another thing that I need to mention. Not only, I mean, any country that wants to be effective in global politics and in foreign affairs has to be economically very strong. Now, India's economic growth over the last 10 years has been commendable. Ours has lagged behind. Of course, we were also hampered by this war on terror that we were fighting. But we have the same kind of potential, very similar potential. In IT, for example, we can provide better services cheaper. This comes as a surprise to most people who look at the $150 billion of export that Bengaluru makes. You know, our export is small, tiny, but you know, our IT professionals over here are being paid in Pak rupees the same as they are being paid in Indian rupees, which means they are twice as expensive. So these are areas where we can exploit the situation, we can offer value for money, and these people should come here. IT companies should come here, help in training people and be able to take advantage of the cheaper labor.
But that is also part of the mechanism that needs to be involved by the current administration in order to lure the American economists or the organizations or the companies or even the American government to invest in Pakistan. It is all in the way we tell them on how important Pakistan is as a country, economically, politically, or otherwise.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And then in the US, for example, the Indian lobby is very strong. Pakistanis need to get together to be able to promote.
Lobby stronger and harder.
Much stronger, much larger. And then there are certain connections that they have, which we do not and may not have. But at the same time, whatever Pakistani diaspora, Pakistani Americans can do, it will be something which is mutually beneficial.
True.
Their life in the US will improve, their respect will improve, we will have a better opportunity there to explain our case, which is the most important thing.
True.
To be able to explain the image that whoever has created, the United States being one of the primary members of this group of people that continue to show Pakistan in a certain light. We need to tell them how fairness pays dividends.
True. True, that is so true. Thank you very much, Ambassador Nasir Ali Khan
Not at
Saab,
all.
to have come all the way to our studios and to have talked about Pakistan and the US. It is a thorny issue, but it is an issue that both countries need to work on and strengthen, because I think the future of this region also implies that both the countries, that is the United States of America and Pakistan, build a stronger relationship that is of which confidence is a key, how should I say, part. I think that is how both countries will move forward, and Pakistan needs to have its relationship with China, and it will have, just like the United States needs to have its relationship with India, and it will continue to have that. So I think both the countries can strike out some kind of a balance and still have a stronger relationship between each other. Thank you very much, Ambassador Saab, to have joined us. More than welcome. And of course, the new ambassador of the US to Pakistan, Donald Armin Bloom, is about to arrive by the end of this month. He's going to have a daunting task because there hasn't been an ambassador for quite some time in Pakistan. So let's see how that also plays. And of course, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari Saab, who's leaving for the United States of America as well. That visit was, of course, also extremely important as far as both the countries and their relationship is concerned. Let's come to our last three stories very quickly. In fact, last two stories. The first concerns the UAE, that is the United Arab Emirates and Pakistan. We all know that His Excellency the Khalifa, Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al-Nahyan, passed away at the age of 73. There's 40 days of mourning across the UAE to condole his demise, who was a key, an important figure as far as the United Arab Emirates is concerned. And Pakistan, as you can see, also our emblem of PTV World is black and white, just to show support with our Emirati brethren in this difficult hour when they have lost a person who they held so dear to. Mr. Khalifa bin Zayed Al-Nahyan was also a key figure as far as Pak-UAE relationship is concerned. And of course, both the countries have reaffirmed their commitment to further strengthen bilateral ties in all dimensions. This was stated during a visit of our Premier Shehbaz Sharif Saab to Abu Dhabi, in which he expressed his deepest condolences on behalf of the government and the people of Pakistan on the demise of Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al-Nahyan, former president of the United Arab Emirates. We will inshallah see a stronger and a more robust relationship between the two countries, and of course make the people of the UAE understand that Pakistan stands with them in this hour of grief. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, let's come to climate change and Islamabad and Rawalpindi and Pakistan. Whereas on the one hand we see a drought-like situation in different parts of Pakistan, and we've discussed that in the beginning of the show, there's also a strong heat wave that is affecting different parts of the country, including the twin cities of Rawalpindi and Islamabad. There has been an advisory that has been issued by the DHO as far as how to take care of the heat wave in Rawalpindi, Islamabad is concerned. What are the clinical features of the heat stroke? Of course, it includes, for all those who do not know, sweating, weakness, lethargy, chills, throbbing headache, high body temperature, hallucinations, confusion, slurred speech. And of course, the advisory says that the elderly, the infants, the athletes and outdoor workers are at high risk of heat stroke, so they need to be extremely careful. Also, the advisory talks about the preventive measures that include avoid going outside during the hottest time of the day, strenuous physical activity that needs to be avoided, and if their physical activity needs to be done, it needs to be done at certain times of the day that are cool. Stay in the shade, do not leave children or animals in parked vehicles. This is something that a lot of people do. Drink plenty of water, avoid becoming dehydrated, refrain from vigorous physical activities, and of course try to refrain working directly under the sun. Avoid caffeine and sugar containing soft drinks, consume salty foods, use an umbrella, wear hats, light colored, light and loose fitting clothes, keep the body cool and hydrated by taking cool showers, and also use cold packs or wraps, sponges and foot baths to keep cool. If any of you feels dizzy, feels weak, anxious, or has intense thirst or headache during a heat wave, quickly you need to move to a cooler place, to a place where there's shade, so that your body temperature could be lowered. Drink lots of water and fruit juice as well. At the same time, we are also seeing infectious diseases because of this heat wave that have come to Islamabad and Rawalpindi, infecting children, whether it be chicken pox, whether it be gastroenteritis, or whether it be measles. A lot of cases are being seen in private and public hospitals involving children. So be very careful with your children, especially under this current heat wave. We will inshallah manage this and take care of this in the right ways if we follow this advisory. With that, we come to an end of today's Newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news story segments that pertain to you, us and Pakistan. In the meantime, stay safe. Allah Hafiz.